Three new bills proposed to implement more protection for children online. Although some say they're necessary, others are pushing back because of the First Amendment concerns. Hear both sides of the argument. And while Arizona's seen a decrease when it comes to drug overdoses, fentanyl continues to be a big issue. Find out how one former NFL star is fighting back. It's all that and more this evening on Broomhead. Welcome, I'm Mike Broomhead. Much of the theme that carries through today's show concerns child safety. There are two questions every parent will have to navigate at some point. Is my child safe online, and are they safe from drugs? Today, we explore both of these for Arizona parents. But before we begin, a reminder, those looking to travel soon, you may have to get a new ID to board a plane. In today's Political Minute, News Nation chief Washington correspondent and host of The Hill, Blake Berman, details a new travel requirement that will go into effect soon nationwide.
If you're traveling this year, you might want to check your ID. I'm Blake Berman, host of The Hill on News Nation. Summer is just around the corner, which means more Americans will be boarding flights to take vacations across the country. But soon, you will need what's known as a real ID to board a plane in the U.S. If you don't have one, you may need to provide another form of identification, like a passport. So what's a real ID? Well, Congress passed the Real ID Act in 2005 in light of the September 11th terrorist attacks. The law established a national standard for states to issue IDs. It will be enforced starting on May 7th. To obtain a real ID, you'll need documentation that shows your full name, date of birth, social security number, two proofs of address, and your lawful status. Now, many states already have implemented measures for years, so check your wallet. If there's a star on your ID, you're covered. I'm Blake Berman, and this is the News Nation Political Minute.
In Arizona, getting a travel ID will cost about $25, and you will need to apply in person at any MVD office or an authorized third-party provider. To find a local MVD office or make an appointment, head over to azmvdnow.gov. Coming up, three new bills were introduced in an effort to protect children online, but the bills have received some criticism. Representative Nick Cupper shares why he thinks they're necessary. That's next on Broomhead. It's important to recognize and thank the fine Arizona men and women who are serving in our country's military. One of the ways we like to do that is through a segment called From Arizona for America. It's brought to you by my good friends at Sanderson Ford. So join me in honoring Hospital Corpsman First Class Brian Romano from Gilbert, Arizona. He's a search and rescue medical technician stationed at NMRTU China Lake in California. For a list of more of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, go to the Broomhead tab at cw7az.com. Protecting kids online from adult material has been a big topic for a long time. How do we best protect our kids? There is a bill in the state legislature. It's House Bill 2112 that would protect kids. To talk about that, one of the sponsors of the bill, Nick Cupper from District 25. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate getting the opportunity to talk about this.
So let's talk about the concern. Let's talk about what the bill would do and what the punishments would be for violating. Can you explain it to us?
Absolutely. So right now, the concern is it's too easy for minor children to access online pornography, which everybody, regardless of side of the aisle, agrees is a harm to them. Right now, the current status would be if a child went to an online pornography site, it would have a pop-up that asked them, are you 18 or over, yes or no? A yes or no question is not going to stop them from accessing the site. So what this bill does is it requires an age verification of some form. It's not a digital ID, but it creates all these different possibilities of what could be. It could be simple using a webcam, for instance, to estimate your age. Now, it's not perfect, but no bill will ever be perfect. And any legislator who tells you otherwise is lying to you. But it puts a lot of teeth in there, too, that other previous bills, especially versions that have been run in this state, didn't do. So, for instance, if an online age verification system stores your data, it's illegal to do that based on this law, this bill. If they do store your data, it's a $10,000 fine per instance that they stored it. And then if a website is not using age verification and allowing minors to access their site, it's up to a $250,000 fine.
So what is the criteria? Is it strictly the adult websites we've all heard about? Is it what determines that it's an adult website? What's the cutoff?
A good question. So the wording of it is very important and very difficult to craft correctly. The basic gist, without reading it verbatim right now, is that more than 1/3 of the content has to be content that is harmful to minors. And then in the bill, we define what is harmful to minors. And it gets into a few more lewd descriptions that I won't say right now, but anyone can read the bill and see what it does. What it doesn't do is it doesn't prevent educational websites. For instance, there's been some concern from Democrat colleagues originally that, they thought maybe it would stop some kind of sex education or things like that. It won't prevent that, but it will prevent directly geared towards, pornography websites.
The devil's advocate now is, the question is, isn't this a parental responsibility? Shouldn't the parents be doing a better job of policing what their children are doing online, and the government shouldn't be involved in this?
The parents should absolutely, sorry about the bell. The parents absolutely should be doing more to protect their own children. But what this does is this adds a layered approach. It gives more protection for the parents and more assistance, because currently a parent can use on-device protection. They could protect their router. Now, granted, this is if they're savvy enough to do that. Where that doesn't help the parent is if the child goes to a neighbor's house or a friend's house, you don't have any control over that. So this gives the parent one more tool in their toolbox, where if they are over at a friend's house and maybe that friend doesn't have any protections on their devices, et cetera, this is giving that extra layer of protection and peace of mind for parents. Now, it doesn't say parents shouldn't be doing their job. You should still be doing your job. We used to learn in the military, especially in maintenance as an aircraft maintainer, this concept of the Swiss cheese model. Every layer is going to have some holes, but the more layers you have, the less likely any of the holes are going to line up and you're going to cause a problem.
Last question. If this passes the state legislature, do you anticipate the governor's signature, or are we going to see a veto?
I actually just had a meeting with her people on Monday. I think it was very promising. I believe the governor cares about children. I believe that she'll pass this. Her previous reason for vetoing a somewhat similar bill that didn't have these teeth was, one, that she believed it violated freedom of speech, and two, it wasn't bipartisan. This bill had a supermajority in the House, and we actually modeled it off of Texas's legislation, which has already been blessed by the Fifth Circuit. So I think this will get a pass.
Representative Cupper, I appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
We'll be right back. Coming up, we heard from the bill sponsor. Now it's time to hear from the opposing side. Find out why the ACLU of Arizona is pushing back against the 3 bills proposed to protect children online. Hear what they have to say when Broomhead returns. Conversation about protecting children and the First Amendment can both coincide. To give us another side to this issue is Marilyn Rodriguez from the ACLU of Arizona. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Some bills in the legislature, and they are surrounding the same thing, which would require companies with adult content to go further in protecting children. Is it the ACLU's position that this is pushing against or violating the First Amendment right of these companies?
Yes, and I want to make sure I make clear, like, parents certainly have valid concerns about protecting their kids on the internet, like, absolutely. But that's not what these bills do. And I think that's what politicians bank on when they introduce this sort of thing. They don't expect people to read the text. Well, the ACLU read the text. These bills never even mention porn. It's not about that. It goes so much further.
So what is it that you disagree with? If it was specifically about pornographic websites, would you have the issue that you have?
I don't know that we would. These bills, they're a massive and unprecedented expansion of internet censorship and government surveillance on everyday people. In one of these bills, that failure to comply will mean $100,000 per violation. So that means a website owner could be liable for several $1 million for a single advertisement for something like a Star Wars ad or a single zombie. The language in this legislation is so broad and not specific. For goodness sakes, this could apply to Netflix, PlayStation, the Boy Scouts, all the way to junior ROTC programs, Pop Warner, youth gun clubs. When we read these bills, these are the things that make being a kid fun. And so to take the approach of protecting kids online in this manner would be akin to, like, banning baseball to prevent a scraped knee. It's so extreme.
One of the sponsors of 2112 said that they modeled that bill specifically after a Texas law that has already been blessed by the Supreme Court. Do you disagree that that's true?
Yes, no. A lot of these laws are modeled after other laws in other states. They're being enjoined. They're getting struck down, right? They're getting struck down for being too extreme in their implementation, and that is certainly what we believe would happen here. Kids deserve our protection and support, but rather than creating a digital surveillance state, we've told Mr. Kupperthis and others, instead of creating these broad bans on content, parents can create a safe space for kids online with tools like voluntary content filtering and parental controls, which in a lot of these cases, the folks in the industry direct them to.
So the devil's advocate, I did the same thing with him on the other side, is when I was a kid, no internet. When you had adult material, adult magazines, they were kept behind the counter. They were kept with covers over the magazines, so children couldn't have access to them because parents aren't with children 24 hours a day. Do you think there needs to be something in place that protects a child when they're not around their parents, they're at somebody else's house?
Yeah, I think yes. But, let's leave that parenting to the parents. There are less restrictive means of doing this that aren't a blanket ban on content. Like one of the bills says you can't advertise to any kid something related to violence. Violence can mean a lot of things, Mike. That can mean Star Wars, right? That can mean Paw Patrol. That is so broad. And so I disagree with the framing of what these bills even are. And yes, you certainly want to make sure that kids are safe online. There are tools that are way less restrictive and way less punitive that are much safer and much more effective that we encourage people to use.
Well, Ms. Rodriguez, I appreciate the time. I appreciate this conversation. I think getting both sides of this is important for voters to understand, and we thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, important issue. It's not going to end right here. We're going to keep talking about it. Stick around. Coming up, while the number of drug overdoses in Arizona have gone down, the number is still too high. We're hearing from a notable sports figure about how his life was changed forever by an overdose. Hear his story next. Here's a look at some upcoming events that should be on your radar. First up, opening day for the Diamondbacks' 2025 MLB season happening March 27th at 7:10 p.m. at Chase Field against the Chicago Cubs. Tickets can still be purchased for the first 4 games at home. Then, the Phoenix Film Festival kicks off this week. It runs from March 27th to April 6th at Harkins Scottsdale 101 Theater. Tickets can be purchased for single or multiple films. He's a Super Bowl MVP. Legendary defensive tackle Randy White retired from the game, but his life changed in a way he never expected. He's now helping to raise his grandchildren after his son-in-law died from taking what he thought was an approved painkiller for an achy knee. Turned out it was laced with fentanyl. Brian Dorman has the story.
In the 1970s and 80s, Randy White was a household name, known as the Manster, half man, half monster. At 6 foot 4 inches, 257 pounds, he played 14 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys, and he was one of the best out on the field. His career earned him 6 NFC Championship games, 3 Super Bowls, and an induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But with all the accolades came tragedy after the death of his son-in-law to fentanyl poisoning.
He was a professional snowboarder. He taught kids how to snowboard. He was a good kid. And he was out all day planting trees. And his friend had a bad knee, and his friend gave him what he thought was a real pill, and it was laced with fentanyl.
At 42 years old, Jesse Dempsey left behind his wife, Jordan, Randy White's daughter, who was pregnant at the time of his death. He also left behind their young son, a family torn apart by one pill.
He went home, and my daughter, if she had it to do all over, she probably might have been able to save his life. She didn't even realize what was going on. That's why the education part of this to the people out there is so important, because if you don't know what's happening, how are you going to help them? How are you going to fix it?
For White, that education starts at home, where he now helps his daughter raise his 2 grandchildren.
We've had some talks. My 13-year-old, hopefully he gets it. I think it's important for parents. But see, this is the thing. When they said Jesse died from fentanyl, I never heard of fentanyl. I can honestly look at you, and I don't live in a closet. I'm out around, but I didn't even know what fentanyl was.
Now, he wants to make sure everyone knows what fentanyl is and its deadly consequences, how it destroys families. He has taken his message to the playing field, a place he knows well, putting his know-how behind high school coaches all around the country.
The coaches, I mean, they're the heroes in this. I tell you what, these coaches, they're out there, they're with these kids. The kids look up to the coach. They're very influential, and I'm so proud of them. Gets you choked up.
Together, they have launched a nonprofit called Coaches versus Overdoses, a program that provides a game plan to tackle fentanyl and defeat overdoses.
If you don't know anything about fentanyl, when you get done looking at this, you're going to have a good idea about what it is. And that's what we need.
And to the young people watching, the football great wants you to know this.
One pill can kill you. Don't take anything that doesn't have your name on a prescription bottle. Don't take it. And anybody that tries to get you say, hey, man, you're chicken, you want to do this? They're not your friend. Run away from them.
All right, welcome back. We are talking about the fentanyl crisis, and going to our expert here in Maricopa County is the Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike.
This is still every parent's nightmare. Children out. This is such a dangerous drug. We've seen some improvement in the numbers, but they're not where they want them to be. It's still a crisis, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it is, from what we're hearing from DEA in particular, it's leveling off. It's not really diminishing. That doesn't mean that other drugs aren't moving in and taking its place, like methamphetamine is on the rise, but I mean, it's still, 7 out of 10 pills that are coming across the border are testing for lethal doses.
So when it comes to the numbers in fentanyl cases, what's happening in Maricopa County?
Well, just to give you some reference numbers, 4 years ago in 2021, we filed 4,690 cases that involves everything from possession to sale, transport, manufacture. That was 2021. Last year, we filed 6,811. So that's an increase of over about 2,100 plus cases.
And when you look at the numbers, the growth of fentanyl and the pills that are being caught coming in, they still call Arizona the fentanyl superhighway. Are those numbers of captures going up? Are we starting to get a grip on stopping this stuff coming in?
I think there is. We've seen some big busts lately, so I'm hopeful. Obviously it's hard to measure what you're not getting, but Arizona is absolutely at the forefront of it. For 2022 and 2023, over half the pills seized in the United States, this is according to the DEA, were seized here in Arizona. So this is ground zero.
What do parents need to know?
Parents need to know that fentanyl can come in any type of pill. A lot of kids think that they're buying something like a Percocet or a Xanax or something else, and it's actually an illegally made pill. It's not pharmaceutical grade, and it contains fentanyl. And, as we say, one pill can kill. So a kid can think they're taking a Percocet and end up dying from that because it has a lethal dose in it.
I know this is such a topic we could talk about forever and ever, but I appreciate the information. I think parents need to be able to have conversations with their children about how dangerous this is, that it's one mistake and your life could be over. So I appreciate the time today and you talking about this stuff.
Absolutely. And, also parents need to be mindful. We've had just 2 cases this month of parents who were sentenced because they left their fentanyl within the reach of small children, and 2 children died. So a very small amount that can fit at the tip of a pencil can kill a child.
Appreciate the time today.
No problem. Anytime.
CW7 Arizona is looking to continue the conversation surrounding the dangers of fentanyl. Be sure to tune in for an in-depth look at this health emergency and some of the innovative strategies being used to tackle the deadly fentanyl crisis. The Next Generation, Breaking Fentanyl's Grip, airs March 29th at 5 p.m., sponsored locally by Talk Now Arizona, Arizona Department of Child Safety, and Fire and Water International Church. This week's poll question is, should stricter laws be implemented to protect children online? Thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next Sunday on Broomhead.